Ladies and gentlemen, this is our 12th weekly episode of the ModZoo Weekly Hangout. This week we're going to be discussing what's a little bit anyway of what's on your workbench with the usual crew and our special guest, Rod Rosenberg. First with us we have Bill Owen.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
And our modding mosquito.
Good evening.
And the guest of the hour, Rod Rosenberg of BSMods.
Hi guys.
Yes. He's in the shop too. Check out that epic shop at BSMods.
Woohoo!
But you guys are looking for a new shop though soon, hey?
Yep, new shop coming up.
Any leads? Is it going to be bigger?
I hope so. It needs to be.
Awesome.
So I see you got the special bays there, so you can receive some of those larger, like a Mountain Mods box or something like that.
Right? Yeah. We have. It's funny because there's 7 Case Labs cases in the shop right now. So you sometimes need those doors.
Yeah.
So before we actually dig into everything, first of all, Chris, did you have anything that you wanted to talk about with the goings-on at the Mod Zoo, or do we want to get right into monkeying around?
I could. I have a featured project, but that's about it. Not a whole lot new going on the site front, but I guess we could go over and check it out. It's Project TIE P5 Advanced, and this is by I'm Face Roll. At least I assume that's how you say it. It's either that or I'm Facer All. Either way. And this is a mod that is using a Thermaltake P5 core, which is their wall PC, although you wouldn't really be able to tell that from this update. He's taking some of like wall mounting flower pots and covering them in sheet metal to make them look like metal spheres, and lots of Bondo-like things, and lots of sanding, and lots of sanding and mess. See? Ugh. This is why you wear a mask.
Forget the mask, that's why you wear a bunny suit.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that one's been going on. He's been using a lot of random things that you wouldn't necessarily think to use to mod this. So I think that's an interesting one, and yeah, if you have the time, you should go check that one out at the modzoo.com forums. That's pretty much all I've got.
Awesome. So, well, I guess I'll kick off the monkeying around, unless, Bill, you want to take first stab at that.
I'll let you go first. Is the theme music queued up this time?
No, I still haven't actually gotten that clip down there from Chris. We'll have to worry about that for the next one.
All right.
Dang it!
It's a new segment.
It's no big deal. My thing here is from a group called Win Arrow. If you do not like the way that Windows 10's calculator does anything, or for my wife's point of view, doesn't do anything, she relies a lot on the listing of what you've done, the accounting feature, and that's just not there in Windows 10 anymore. And they've got replacement, which actually even goes in and it replaces the calc.exe binary, so you can just run it as it was, and it's the calculator that everyone got used to in Windows 7. This came across my radar personally because the modern apps in Windows 10 decided that they weren't going to work anymore, and as far as I'm concerned, that's fine. Give me back the old apps, give me back what I'm used to, because I don't want the Windows 10 overlay. I hated Windows 8, despised Windows 8.1. Make it look like Windows 7, I'm a happy monkey. And so that was what I found.
Nice. I'll go next. This week I had to order some liquid cooling components, and I've used this site before. If you've never heard of it before, is Aquatuning US. Well, Aquatuning is a European company, but they've got US and Canada stores. They've got a large array of liquid cooling components, and what I like about them is their selection of water pumps. They've got all the different water pumps, because to be honest with you, if you do a lot of DIY liquid cooling out there, gang, you're going to find that a lot of the stores don't have a large selection of pumps. They're kind of limited. So check out Aqua Tuning US. And here's the thing, too. Their shipping is very, very reasonable. I ordered a couple pumps, and I'm getting them next day for $10.
Wow.
Yeah, can't beat that. So if you're in a situation where you got to get a specific pump right away, or you need fittings, reservoir, radiators, they got a large selection of all the Alpha Cool stuff you can find here. Yeah, Aqua Tuning.
Awesome. All right, so I guess let's go ahead and talk about what we've got on our workbenches. So we'll kick that back over to you, Bill.
Did Moss have something to share, though? What about Rod?
Oh, dang it. I was hoping you'd skip me. I got nothing.
I got an app that I use on my phone a lot, and I'll try to get it here up on camera. But it's an app called ElectroDroid, and it's kind of an Ohm's law calculator, but it does like a lot of other things. LED resistor calculations, battery life calculations. One of my favorites that people always is a voltage drop calculator. So you set what type of wire you've got, how long it is, what the gauge is, what the voltage is, and it will tell you what the voltage will be at the other end.
Awesome.
People always ask all the time, like, oh, if I put these extensions on, you know, is this going to screw up my power supply? And the answer is no, but this is why. So you can quickly say, oh, it's an 18-gauge wire, it's got 12 volts, it's now 3 feet long, it's going to put out 11.98 volts or whatever. On the other end, power supplies are 10, ATX is a 10% tolerance. That's within 10%. Should work fine.
And what is the name of that app again?
It's called ElectroDroid.
ElectroDroid, okay. Is it free?
It is. There's a free version, yeah, and that's what I use. And then there's a paid version that removes a little banner ad at the bottom.
Okay.
Is there a Windows app version?
Is there? I don't know. Yeah.
I always lose out on that one.
There's many other apps like it, though, that are Ohm's law calculators, essentially. But this one has, I mean, just all kinds. Resistor codes, everything.
Nice.
It is nice.
I think I remember messing with that one for the resistor codes once upon a time, just to have that as a cheat sheet next to me. That was really nice.
What you got, Mosquito?
For what?
Monkeying around.
That was it. I didn't have anything.
No homework?
No, I totally forgot. I was never good at homework.
Oh,
ask my parents.
All right. Well, in this episode, we're calling it What's on Your Workbench? Because, hey, let's be honest here. We're all in the custom building. We want to see what kind of projects are going on, because we've always got some type of project going on, and we want to see what's going on just besides our faces, right? And I'm going to start with Drew.
Yeah, throw it right back in my face, right on.
Yes, I am.
Well, I was going to be showing off a little bit of the pre-layout work on the Fantex Lux. Unfortunately, the wife came to me yesterday with reports on her laptop being goofy, so that was on my workbench for the entire day. But Bill sent out a couple of extra tools for me to be working with the water cooling. So I've got a little sample here of our hard tube of choice, the PETG, and he sent me a ratcheting cutter. And as you can see, blade slides out nice and smooth. There's very little tension on the handle. That is a sweet tool. You could use this for hours before you start getting really seriously fatigued. But let's see if I can keep it in focus. You guys see that well there? Mm-hmm. All right. So I learned that if you gently wedge it in first and make sure that you've got it pulled square, then you're going to get a nice square cut. The first cut that I didn't really hold on to the tube, and I got a decent 45-degree cut. Only I wasn't planning on a 45. But that was 4 ratchets, nice and clean, and it just falls apart. There's very little stress to it at all. I imagine that this thing, given the diameter, it looks like it's made for some decent home plumbing size
PVC,
PVC tube, yeah. And this is the kind of tool that is going to keep somebody working all day long with very little discomfort. And see here, see that if it's going to focus well. It's a nice square edge.
Yeah, it's clean, man.
There's very little raising to the edge, so the deburring tool. Where did I drop that?
Yeah, if you don't have a deburring tool, you can use medium grit sandpaper too.
Yeah, as long as it's got a good cone to it. That was the what I discovered while messing around with the deburring tool that I've lost.
I'm sorry, man.
But yep, there's very little lifting on the edges that you really have to worry about. You just kind of smooth it down a little bit, and that's mostly too so you're not going to tear apart your O-rings.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Did you try it just cutting off like 1/8 of an inch of tube? Does it?
No, like a sliver, huh? Yeah.
Because a lot of times, you take your bend, you bend it long, and then you trim it to fit. And when you're trying to get it just parallel, you need to cut off that little sliver. And sometimes when I'm using those, I'll notice it'll compress the tube a little bit when you get down towards the very end.
Yeah.
So I've got that little sliver that I just took off.
It's a matter of holding it in place now.
Yeah.
Yep, because you don't want to take your fingerprint with it, that's for sure. All right, so let me see if I can get that in nice and tight. Okay, so I've got probably 1/8 of an inch or so right there. And yep, right there, that you can see that starting to flatten it right down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Go faster, faster. Okay, now use the Mayhem's glass and do the same demonstration.
No cheating, no blowtorch. And yep, no, I got this last week, and it's also heavy, man. That sucker, you could beat somebody's brains in with that. That's nice.
I've been using it to cut down our stock that we inventory. I use the same one to cut down to like 12-inch and 24-inch long tubes. And yeah, the blades held up so long. So far, I started using it like last fall. But yeah, I got to find replacement blades. Also, while I was watching you, I was thinking, maybe I could make an attachment to hold the tube in place, like a fixture that that's got a recess for 1/2 inch and 3/8 on the end of it. So I have to look at that and look at it as a possibility. Which was really nice. Speaking of that ratchet gun. Seems to be the weekend of the ratchet gun. Jay-Z used the gun on his video Friday night that he uploaded. And Saturday morning, I was like, why is so many people buying these ratchet guns? Why all of a sudden the popularity of these, So I got it traced back to JC put a video up, so that was cool. Rod, you guys use a lot of PETG yet in your builds?
Yeah, all of our hardline stuff is all PETG. We'll both use the metric, especially when we're doing 16 millimeter, and then 1/2 inch quite a bit. And we normally use a bandsaw to cut it. It's handy. It's right there. You flip it on, you cut it. And you do have to deburr it. We use a 6-flute chamfer tool to deburr the inside, and then usually sometimes we'll just give it a little spin on the belt sander. So it's a little bit more equipment involved. And I thought, we should grab a ratchet cutter for cutting mid-length in a tube. But when we're doing those really small cuts, I found that actually using a saw blade is the best way to get that little 1/8 of an inch, that just tiny little slice off.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, okay, you guys are going to Computex at the end of the month to enter an InWinds case file competition. Are you doing a PTG liquid loop at Computex in your
Yes, we are.
So how are you going to cut it there?
That's a good question. I will probably throw my little tiny handsaw in my box of tools I get to take with me, just in case. I'll hope for a bandsaw.
Are you going to ship that or try to take it on the plane?
We'll tell you. I think it's going to go on the plane. I think we'll check it. So it'll be kind of interesting. I'm going to have to read, I'm sure, all kinds of legalese to figure out what I can and can't take on the plane. I'm not too worried about metal and hand tools, but if I want to throw a tube of number 16 acrylic cement in there, then it's like, ooh, is that okay? So.
For those of you that aren't familiar with Rod and Bob from BSMods, these guys have entered in some really big case mod competitions this year alone. These guys were in the Alienware case mod competition, and then recently in Linus Tech Tips Scrapyard Wars, and then they're being flown to Computex at the end of the month by Inwin to enter an Inwin's case mod competition, and you guys will be competing against Lee Harrington and Ron Lee Christensen, and I don't know who the other team is.
So the other teams, there's actually 8 total teams. So there's 6 other teams from around the world. There is Stuart Tonks from Australia, I know, is one of them. There's a team from China, a team from France, UK, Germany. I'm probably missing some important guys that I don't really know any of them. I'm excited to meet them, but yeah, 8 teams, 2 from the U.S.
Wow, cool.
So it's going to be a pretty stiff, crazy competition.
I'll share if anybody's missed it. You got to watch the Scrapyard Wars, because the last episode was just on April 26th, and I'll do a screen share here of this is the build that Rod had done. If you can see that, it's this Mad Max Fury Road theme, and what's really crazy about it is, look at that. Rod, explain what you did to create this like grill out computer case mod.
I don't think you're sharing, Bill.
Is it not up yet?
Let's see here.
So with the Mad Max build that he's bringing up,
there we go.
We had a really limited budget. Because it was 50% hardware and performance scores off 5 benchmarks, and it was 50% aesthetics. And the case we got was an old Pentium 4 no-name brand chassis. We found a iron grate. Somewhere in there, there's some pretty good shots of it. We found an iron grate that went on the top. That came from a Habitat for Humanity store. There's the iron grate. Really good shot of it there. And we wanted some kind of crazy wow factor, and so Luke came up with using fire, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's grab some tiki torches or simple lamp oil. You could make your own wick type of thing. Those were like $5. And then we threw a propane torch down in the front of it that we actually got from one of the scrapyards that we visited for free. And then we just bought some other, parts, mostly coming from a scrapyard near Langley. And they just had bins of, and like the pistons, I think, came out of a miscellaneous metal bin. The pulleys on the back came out of a bin full of pot metal or white metal, and yeah, it was really challenging. I think we spent maybe $90 on the mod for the paint and the metal bits, and I mean, just really limited budget on the case mod, and we spent about 8 hours building it. So we had to cut a window. We put corrugated automotive style sleeving on all the wires. So but yeah, and then I posted, I think both, I don't know if I have a good link to them. I posted both of the builds with a couple pictures on PC Part Picker. And I also, we did a follow-up video on our YouTube channel where we kind of discussed what Scrapyard Wars, how the adventure was for us. And I think we answered some questions that came up quite a bit on there. But it was a crazy experience. I mean, to have that kind of restrictions put on case modding, both with time and budget, it's just a challenge. I mean, it's like, you see like Chopped or Cutthroat Kitchen or something like that, where they're like, oh, by the way, you have to incorporate a root beer float into your dessert or something like that. It's the same kind of thing except with case modding, and having to do it in Linus's workshop with limited tools. That was another component of it too, where I was like, oh, Okay, no jigsaw, angle grinder. Perfect.
Yeah. One of our staff members, Graham, has a question for you. He says, how did it feel to have a superior mod but lose in the Scrapyard Wars?
Well, since I was the modder on the team, even though I am pretty proud of my hardware skills too. To have the superior mod, was still the accomplishment, and to be able to yes, I built a cooler mod than you. Bob's was pretty clean too. I mean, it was just totally different, apples and oranges kind of build, but it was still a little frustrating to put that much effort into it and then get beat by a frame rate. Frame rates are still played Tomb Raider really well in this, but we got 40 frames and they got 70 frames or something like that. The big one was they had SATA 3 and we had SATA 2.
Yeah.
And as soon as I found out, they're like, oh, we'll use the black magic test. And I was like, okay, yeah, it's a benchmarking test. And they're like, oh, we're just taking the sequential number. I'm like, oh, we are so done.
Do you think you'll be invited to go do it again next year? Or
I don't know about Scrapyard Wars. I think we might do something like that, but we also might try to do something different with Linus and Luke, maybe one of their tech showdowns or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We also want to work with them, maybe on a future bigger build. One of the builds we got to sort of be involved with was the 7 Gamers build that they did. Had 7 R9 Nanos with a pair of Xeon CPUs, and the idea was that it did virtualize gaming desktops. And we got to transport that down to CES for the gang up north, and then haul it back and had some fun with those guys at the same time. Somehow I got some stickers on it that said like "Made in Canada, may contain maple syrup." I don't know how that happened. But it was like, wow, how cool would it be to incorporate some ridiculous hardware build like that, but then send us the chassis and we'll paint it up so the paint job equals the kind of hardware that's in it or something like that.
Right on. Yeah. Do what you guys specialize in, with making the high candy stuff. Speaking of which, in this episode is what's on your workbench. Can you share some stuff you guys are working on back there at all?
You bet. I can share a sneak peek. I brought a couple things. So from my shop, I brought this, and I brought this for a guy that's on here.
Hey!
Oh my God! Plain porn.
And I bought this at an auction. It was all rusty, and I got it for $5. And it is now a sharp working plane. I didn't completely restore it. I kind of wanted to leave a little bit of the on it and stuff. Looking plane. I sandblasted the inside and painted the cast iron. I actually used a texture-based paint because it just helped blend any defects in the cast iron. And restored a plane. It's still got a chip in the handle. I might remake a handle for it at some point. But yeah, cheap. It's a really good tool, and we don't use wood a lot in our mods, but it is actually a mod tool. And then the big thing on the workbench.
Vindicated.
We have a case.
Mod tool for you guys. I don't know how the hell I'd use a plane.
We have a case here on the workbench, and this is a.
I like how that shifts color.
Yeah, so this is a deep cool genome.
Crazy.
Much like you might have seen with Bill working on with his paint stuff, and we wanted something that looked really classy to match this.
Yeah, that's badass.
Front end. So we did a really cool paint technique that involves water-based paint and saran wrap.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's a cool thing, and we shot a video on it, and we'll be posting that video later. This is just a test sample of different textures that we could put on.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think this one's clear-coated. But really cool technique.
I think, Rod, that technique may have been developed by John Kosmosky of House of Color back in the 60s, late 60s, when he was doing motorcycle tanks, man.
It's definitely something that's been around for a long time, but it's pretty neat to watch it applied and just how simple and organic it is, where you can get something that's crazy cool for doing like a motorcycle tank to something, on a case mod that's really simple to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're going to do a DIY tutorial for anybody that wants to do that.
Yep. It's already been shot. It's loaded up in my machine to get some quick little editing done, and it will be out on our channel, I'm assuming, next week.
What is the name of your YouTube channel?
It's just BSMods.
Okay, cool.
So,
everybody check it out and subscribe. I'm sure you're going to have other videos to share, too, of what else is going on over there.
yeah, I tried to shoot a video of every finished case mod once we can share it and stuff, because some of them we can't share right away. And we've tried to put some DIY, but a little bit different from an all-inclusive painting thing where it's like just a tip of how to do one technique. Really, really short videos. The video I posted this week was about prepping a powder-coated steel chassis, and how when you get a chassis that you can't sand because of all the contours, like on a back panel or something like that, you can use lacquer thinner and soften the powder coat to promote adhesion. So we're not trying to teach you how to paint the whole chassis, just something that we do in our shop to get the results that we get in like a minute. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Moss, I noticed that Moss is using his workshop camera today, so he must have something to share with us from his workshop.
Maybe I just have better things to share down here than I do upstairs. If it's my turn then?
Yeah, let's see what you got, man.
We'll go on an adventure. We'll see how this works.
An adventure. Oh,
you're all going to be here?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Oh, nice.
You'll have to let me know if the audio sucks. I'm carrying the microphone around too. See?
Ooh.
Yeah, maybe.
See ya.
Yeah, so this is actually just a review, but it's the Deep Cool Ducase.
Another Deep Cool. This is like the Deep Cool episode, guys.
Yeah, well, you know, if I was done with if I was already done with the review, it wouldn't be, but you know, whoops. Yeah, so that's kind of what's still on my bench is this water cooling system. I went with something a little bit different. You don't usually see the weird 45s and
are those Alpha Cool 45s or whose 45s are those? EK.
These ones are XSPC, but I meant like the tubing isn't straight 90 degrees here. You've got 45-degree angles on the tubing instead of being everything being straight vertical or straight horizontal.
Mm-hmm.
Because that seems to be a popular thing. So I just decided, what the heck, we'll throw a 90-degree corner in there, but just not.
I like it. It works,
vertical
man.
or horizontal. Other than that, I've got the Streetcom cases down there, waiting.
I didn't know that Ducase has a power supply shroud. I didn't notice that. That's cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I noticed with those Deep Cool chassis, you get a few things. I'm not sure. I haven't used that chassis yet, but a power supply shroud, and no 5 1/4 bays. There's a lot of components to these chassis that really make them a really nice chassis to mod with.
Yeah, and here's something interesting too. I found out this week is that the Deep Cool Genome is one of the top selling cases on Newegg right now, and that's pretty amazing considering that the retail on it is $249.99. because it includes the 360 all-in-one cooler for the CPU. But when I first did the review of it, people were like, that's too much money. But no, goes to show that the public is proving you wrong. They're liking it, and they're feeling that that's justifiable at that price. And since we're on the subject of the Genome and the Deep Cool, I've got one here, too, that I've been working on. Let's see if you can see it all right. I got the first one in the States, and they wanted me to modify it, customize it. And what's really cool about the Genome, other than it has a 360 radiator built in the top already, and it's got the Helix style front reservoir in it, a lot of people like that, is it allows you to put a GPU in vertically, one of them. And so I thought, well, why not do something to highlight that? So, and I've always liked this particular Bits Power acrylic top nickel block. I was like, it kind of just looks sexy, shiny and bright. And I'm not done with this. It's still a work in progress, but I'm going to have the GPU on a separate loop with a 120 radiator. And so that's going to be cooled independently, so we can still highlight the Deep Cool Captain cooler that's installed. So that explains why I've got that window there. And then I changed the front on mine. I wanted to do something different. I've got this white mesh here, and there's going to be two 16mm Vandal switches for power and reset. And then on this side, because another thing that's unique about the Genome is that you could put these 4 SSDs on the back side of the motherboard. And I thought, well, I want to show that off. And so what we did is we milled the GamerStorm logo into the surface of the SSD covers and matches this graphic here. And the thing I was telling Rod earlier is when you do this, you got to have really clean cable management because everybody can see everything back here, you know. So been working on that, and this is going to actually, I hate to say it, but if anybody likes that clean white look, this is actually going to get weathered a bit. So enjoy it now, and I'm going to take an airbrush to it and make it a bit more dirty and muddy because that's just my style. And we've got to mill the windows for everything still, but I got the system in there running, and let's see, I can take this panel off. Here's the 120 radiator right here. There's it's a slim line. And that's the nice thing too about the Genome is you could put a 240 or a single radiator here in this spot, and then I've got a res pump combination down here. It's a DDC with an alpha cool DDC reservoir. And I gotta say that I was telling this to Moss the other day. It's been so long since I've used flex tubing that I kind of felt like I was cheating. You know what I mean? It's like when you go back to flex tubing after, you know, bending hardline, it's like, I'm kind of cheating. This is so easy. So, but it just made sense because the one thing too, Rod, that I'm sure you've already, I think you've done another vertical GPU build, I think, right?
Yeah, we've done a few of them.
One thing I'm noticing is that once you do this, it really makes accessing stuff on your motherboard a bit of a challenge, especially like for the 2-pin connectors for the headers for like the power switch and everything on this particular motherboard. But you know, it's like you don't really take that into account until later when you try accessing stuff.
Right.
So, if we've got time, I can share what else I've been working on. That's actually a personal project, and maybe it will kind of light a fire in my butt to get it done. I'll swap them out real quick.
Yeah, go right ahead. And now we join the Bill screwing around in his shop show.
This way. It's actually due to logistics in the shop, I couldn't move everything over to my actual workbench. This is a project that's my personal build I've been working on, and it's kind of hurting me to look at it because I haven't had any time to work on it. I'm sure you guys can relate to that. You know, it's a Cooler Master Case 5, and one thing that took a while is to figure out how to get this. I can't remember. This is an old EK radiator 360, and I think it's the 60 mil thick one. It's not even available anymore. But I wanted to get to fit nice and flush in the front. And then what I added is what's nice about this radiator. It's got a port on the very bottom. Here.
Oh, very nice.
Okay. And so what I did is I added a drain port at the very bottom.
Slick.
So it's kind of like a stealth drain, and then what you do is just hook up your hose to that when it's on the bench and have a bucket on a stool right next to it so you can drain it out. And it just one of those things where everything just happened to work out the right way. But this is what it is. It's a tribute to Steve McQueen's movie Le Mans, where he raced the Porsche 917 in 1970. It was 1970. And that's the golf racing theme. So I've got the OC orange motherboard I'm going to put in it, and I still got to get GPUs, but that's going to be the overall theme. And the whole exterior is already done. That's what kills me is all the tough stuff's done. It's just a matter of getting the system and the loop in it. you know. But that's my personal build, and I'll finally get to have a new PC when that's all done. So those are the two pressing things on my workbench right now.
I know that that's a build that you've been talking about for at least 3 years.
Here's the thing, too, guys, and why it's also special to me. That this movie, if you've never seen it, I'm sorry, my mic's too hot here. It's Steve McQueen's Le Mans movie, and the full movie is on YouTube. You can watch it, and if you're into motorsports racing, just the cinematography of the race itself is like historic. It's one of the best captured movies. It's kind of like a mock movie documentary of what's like at Le Mans to witness the race. And what I want to do is in the build log is incorporate scenes from the movie into a video highlighting everything and the finished build, and do it to a particular song that kind of mirrors that like 70s rock and roll sound. So that's something I've been wanting to work on for a while, and it'll happen. It's just a matter of getting all this other stuff done so I can get back to it. You know how that is.
Personal build. What are those?
Oh man. A few years ago, Rod, we had this thing we did called the dust off, and it was another situation where we all had these builds that was taking forever, and so well, let's all commit to having a video hangout to show all our builds, and so kind of to light a fire under our butt to get them all done by this specific date. And that was, I think, 2 or 3 years ago now we did that.
Yeah. That was just over 2. I think it was like 2. Yeah, it was about 2, because that was shortly after I moved into the rental house, because I was trying to get a bed frame done that I had let sit for like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, I remember that. It was like whatever project you've had, it doesn't have to be PC related, any type of project. Let's just all join together to like push each other to get it done by this certain date so it's over with, and we can stop reminding and asking everyone, when's that going to be done? When am I going to see that?
Well, the first not quite annual meeting of the International Procrastinators Club, that went off fine. The second meeting, we're still working on that one.
Yeah, we're procrastinating on that. Yeah. What is Bob doing right now, Rod?
I'm not sure. He took off, and he's not even in the shop right now. So I'm not sure if he's off to grab supplies or lunch or what, but he took off.
and so you've got to drive an hour and a half to get to the shop there, and when you guys work on something, and like tomorrow is obviously a work day, how late do you usually stay then before you go home?
I'm usually here probably up until midnight. I'll get home 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
So it makes for a rough day the next day and stuff. But I usually try to come up Fridays. I get off a little bit early, so I come up Friday morning, afternoon, and work all day Friday into the night. And then I work Saturday in my shop, in my place, and try to mow the jungle and do whatever I'm doing in my shop, and then come back up here on Sundays and listen to the podcast and work on a build.
Besides Computex, do you guys have anything else scheduled after that you're going to be involved with?
Not so far. Computex is right now kind of like the furthest out looking thing. We're probably going to do some stuff for PAX in September, because PAX West now, not PAX Prime, it's right in our neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And then CPU Magazine's having a big LAN party in the end of September. And
really?
we're hoping to be involved with that a little bit. It's going to be in Nebraska, so it's kind of in the middle.
Their headquarters.
Yeah. So it's going to be in Lincoln, and it's a 500-man LAN, I believe is what's planned. I think there's some full-page cover in the latest copies of CPU talking about it. And I haven't got a ton of details, but I think we're going to be involved with that one. And that might be kind of neat, because we'll get to see some of the people that are more towards the Midwest and stuff.
Yeah, like us. Well, are you guys going to drive or fly?
I think we'll be flying to that one. I don't think we're going to drive to Nebraska. I've done a drive pretty close to that, and that's a long ride. Las Vegas seems like about as far as I want to drive.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're just checking the. We got some people watching in the live chat here. Let's see. Current project. Oh, we got Nocturne Kitty in here. Current project: a Thermaltake S1, getting some custom fan grills and side panel window. Cool. And we got Insolent Gnome. He was asking, is Bob holding it over your head? The most
I think
dangerous
that has
case.
to do with the plane.
Oh.
Plane. Ah.
See,
Ow!
Moss found a new compadre in Plainville with you. That's for sure.
I really enjoy. You know, I don't do a ton of woodworking, but I really enjoy old tools. My kind of pride in my shop. I have a pair of lathes, and I have a South Bend 16-inch metal lathe, and then I have a 1948 Delta wood lathe, and being able to turn apart right away is pretty cool. I made some parts for my wood lathe on the metal lathe the other day, and that was pretty neat to like make a tool. I hope to get a little bit more involved with threading reservoirs and doing some pretty advanced stuff on the lathe, but I've got a lot to learn.
Oh yeah, yeah. When you get into making reservoirs, have you ever made a? Yeah, you guys have made a case from wood. You did for one promotion. It was like a crate with a little monster.
Yeah, we did. Our Asus Strix build was made out of pallets, and it was a pretty unique build. And maybe one of our most popular builds. And it was, yeah, some pallets that were sitting behind the shop for a long time. And yeah, we did a really weathered effect on it. And it's wood's an interesting medium to work with. It's both really cool in the look you can get, and really evil because it's, you know, wood is always alive and moving, and can be really challenging sometimes compared to a piece of acrylic or aluminum.
It's got its own mind that it likes to change every now and then.
Right. Add a little moisture, get something different.
Yep.
Have you, Ron? Have you ever thought about making a case strictly from wood? Everything.
I have considered that, and I had a project that I thought I was going to do, and it got canceled. So I'm hoping sometime to do something where I can incorporate some turnings into a lathe as well, or into a build. So I kind of want to do something that's maybe walnut and brass. Kind of a little bit steampunk, but way heavier on the wood side. So.
Moss, do you have any? You finished your last wood theme build. Are you planning any other ones?
Always.
No, always. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got an idea for one. I don't have the time at the moment, but I've got a bunch of other woodworking projects I got to burn through before I can do that. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to do a case mod on the. I have the Silverstone RVX01, the one that Graham and Greg just hated.
Which is that?
I kind of want to mod it.
That funky. Which one is that again? Remind us.
It's their cheap Raven.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's like an $80 case. We had obviously that's how I have it. I did the review of it, but let's see.
Yeah, that's a really, man, there's a lot of angles on that.
Oh, yeah. What are you going to do with that one, Moss?
Well, what I want to do is... Actually, I don't think it was on page 4. But I showed... Yeah, here we go. I showed that you can fit a 360 in there if you hack some stuff up, namely the drive cage. And so I kind of want to do that and throw a micro ATX board in there and then throw the reservoir down here on the end. So not too crazy heavy modding, but I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, I think it'd probably be a first for that too.
Could be. I mean, it's an R8 case. It's just.
You know, what's funny is I did this poll on Twitter this last week asking people what they thought of to vote for their favorite enthusiast PC case. And you know, it was really reflective of like the people that follow my Twitter. They're mostly DIY people. Also, it was surprising, companies that were really number one for a while, like Leon Lee and Silverstone.
Antec.
Yeah, they've fallen, and it's part also their involvement in social media. They're not really active with that, so I can also see that as a result. But nonetheless, looking at this case that Moss was sharing, is Silverstone isn't making those TJ07s, anything like that anymore. And I'm sure it's just because maybe there's a lot more competition on the market too. You've got Fantex and Case Labs and Corsair from an array of stuff too. That like when we first got into this hobby, Corsair wasn't making cases, and there wasn't a Case Labs or these other companies. So I just find it interesting, to see that these cases that were like the coveted, the best, Leon Lee and Silverstone, because they're also aluminum construction, they've kind of fallen by the wayside. What do you guys think of that?
It's interesting because there's almost two classifications of cases. There's cases that are steel with plastic on them, and so many of those are just stamped right out, and you can actually find the same steel chassis within many different cases. And those are always inexpensive, but they're kind of everywhere. Everyone's got one. And then when you go into someone that's unique, even this Raven's still unique just because of the way the board and stuff is put. But when you get into the, whether it's a unique form factor or unique metals and construction, like an Inwind chassis or even a Land Lead chassis, even though they've kind of dropped off, I think you really got to give props to the companies that are kind of stretching out. The Thermaltake P5. P5 is a great case because it allows people to see something totally different, like an S frame or a D frame as well. And the
price
P5
is very reasonable.
Yeah, the P5 is super affordable compared to an S frame or a D frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. That's kind of the problem that Leon Lee, all their cool stuff is also really expensive. Like their wall PCs were $300 and something. It's
even the ITX one, Moss. Remember the little one? Wasn't that like $2 something? Yeah.
TU200. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, how the playing field's changed, and how Antec's pretty much fallen off the map overall. I mean,
It's amazing when you look at some of these older chassis that used to be the case to kind of like everyone would get to mod, and I was surprised. We worked with the Antec 900 in a GeForce Garage episode maybe about a year ago, and I hadn't touched a 900 in quite a while. But the 900 was like a really iconic case. Like everyone had one, all your friends had one.
That's right.
And you pull it open, and you're like, it's raw steel on the inside? They didn't paint the inside? Really? I don't even remember that.
That's right.
And some of these chassis really start to show their age. And you realize how much, even though the chassis itself hasn't changed that much, how much has changed when you start adding RGB lighting and better radiator mounts, and they powder coat the inside and outside of the chassis. There's been quite a revolution, even though it's not really don't perceive it right away.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got one question this week for a Q&A. We'll go on to. And we can ask Rod this too, since he's in the shop. And it's Caveman the One, and they ask, best way to cut holes in cases, specifically stuff like 140 millimeter fans or cutting old odd cases up to fit new hardware. What do you guys typically use to cut up a case?
Now they're talking best, or because I remember those Green Lee knockout punches that Bill used to have. However,
I sold those on eBay.
So for us, we're cutting fan holes. Most of the time, we use a hole saw, and it's kind of it's something can be kind of rough. You want a corded drill to do it and stuff, but when we're just chopping cases up and we're cutting, drive bays out, that kind of stuff, a lot of times we use a little air cutoff wheel. And air cutoff wheel does take, a compressor to run and stuff, but, all of a sudden you've got a 2-inch wheel that can cut through metal really fast, and still really maneuverable compared to using, say, a smaller rotary tool. And then the other one that a 4-inch angle grinder with a cutoff disc is actually a pretty maneuverable tool, and it lets you cut through a lot of case much quicker than little 1-inch wheel after little 1-inch wheel. Cut 4 inches, replace the wheel. Cut 4 inches, replace the wheel. It's like nope, just whomp all the way through, and then you got your big file and threw it up, and it's efficient.
Yeah. Yeah, I personally try to stay away from hole saws. I used them early on, but now I've kind of learned that there's an element of risk with a hole saw that it may bind up on you and surprise the hell out of you and nick the chassis, and then now you got to fix a scratch or whatever like that. I mean, they work. It's just that I've learned if I can find ways around not using them, I will. And another thing is too, with these new cases today, we're not chopping up cases like we used to because the manufacturer's doing a lot of the work for us. It's like if you don't have a brand new mid-tower case that will allow a 240 all-in-one radiator in the ceiling or the front, you're out of the game at this point. And people the big thing is adding a GPU cooler fan on the side panel. You don't really see that stuff anymore, need for it.
Yeah, we very rarely even hole saw fan holes anymore. Most of the time, I think we did it on the Alienware chassis, but that was a pretty unique chassis for a design, completely around there. It's not a DIY chassis; it's a proprietary chassis, and we used it there. And we've when it comes to hole saws, we use an oil-water mixture to keep them lubricated and cool, and use 2 people. And that helps with a lot of that stuff when it comes to binding. Keep the thing running at high speed and don't use any pressure on it because you just want it to skim across.
Yeah.
But there's still, when a hole saw binds, your chassis can be thrown onto the floor really quickly.
Oh yeah, I've had that happen. Yeah, using a dull blade or something like that.
Right.
Moss, do you have hole saws? Have you ever used them?
Moss, you muted yourself.
Sorry, I thought I unmuted myself.
Nope.
I have them. I don't use them very often. Kind of like Rod was saying too, is I don't mod too many cases that much. I never really did. I think I've only done like 4 or 5 case mods. Everything else is scratch builds, and I usually do those out of wood. So I have Forstner bits, which are along the same lines, but those I use all the time because those are a little bit different. They make a hell of a big mess when you're using those. They send wood chips flying everywhere, but hole saws not quite as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the thing is, too, hole saws, it was about adding fans, and now I think the mentality is that we have is radiator. Okay, we're gonna move up to a bigger radiator. That's a jigsaw, application, not really hole saws. So.
A good jigsaw is, man, it's a valuable tool. It's amazing. Scrap Air Wars, we had to work. It was actually the same brand jigsaw, but it was maybe the cheapest grade, and we have a pretty decent one here at the shop. And man, a good jigsaw runs straight. It runs smooth. It doesn't chatter the metal much at all.
Yeah.
And when it comes to those radiator holes, man, that's a great tool.
Yeah, and a good bimetal cutting blade is essential. Drew, do you have a jigsaw yet?
We do have a jigsaw, but the most action it's seen is the home repairs for this ancient pile.
Yeah.
And pretty much the same story goes with the hole saws that we have, because we've had to rehang a few doors or replace a few doors. So drilling out where the handle and the lock bars go. So I've got experience with the hole saws, but not on a case.
Yeah, cool. Well, that was it was a slow week for Q&A questions. So by all means, ask us questions because we like to cover questions. Don't be shy. Go on the forums or wherever you follow the Modzu or myself through social media. You can follow Rod and Bob from BSMods on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle, Rod?
So if you're following us for the modding, it's at BSMods, and then I'm at Rod Rosenberg as well. But almost all the modding stuff goes on the at BSMods Twitter.
Mhm. And those of you that don't follow them already, you want to follow these guys because they're going to be representing the USA. Well, I know we have a global audience, but you got to see Rod here through the Mod Zoo, and you get to watch him. I'm sure there's going to be like some type of live feed from Computex, won't you think?
Yeah, I was under the impression there was, and now I'm hearing stuff that maybe a lot of it might be showing up on YouTube later. So I'm
Sure.
really not sure yet, but I'm sure there'll be at least stuff that you can see with us, and I'm sure like the other team, like Lee and Ron, will be posting stuff as well, and you know, letting everybody inside a 3-day, 8-hour mod contest, which it's going to be wild. It's really going to be amazing. It's in the InWin factory, which I believe doesn't
cool.
have.
Well, they should have
AC.
every type of equipment you need at your disposal, right? I mean, this is
Well,
a
I
world
think if you
leader.
need one of those great big stamping machines that takes a big flat piece of metal and turns it into a chassis, then yes.
Yeah.
But
Alright,
if we
that's
need
cool.
like a file, then maybe not. There was a lot of, they're like, oh, well, we have a laser cutter, and it's like a huge industrial laser cutter, and it's like, well, yeah, but how many of the teams are going to have experience with a Taiwanese laser cutter, you know? So
Yeah, they should have a factory rep to work with the team and like, what do you guys need? You know, we'll try to make it happen on our end.
yeah, and I think the biggest thing they might do is some of the bending stuff that they have. Will be able to bend some metal. But yeah, there's on the InWin page. I think it's on. There's an InWin page where they have an InWin factory video. It's probably on their YouTube too, where they show the big stamping machines taking this flat chunk of metal, and in like 7 operations, it folds up the sides and builds a whole chassis. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, they're cutting edge, dude. They're really amazing. Yeah, and this stuff that they create, like the S frame and the D frames, this is they're just flexing their muscle to show what they can do. I mean, you know, they've been in the OEM game for years already. That's where their main money is. This stuff is just for fun to just say, hey, we're up front and we're doing stuff that nobody else can do. So
yeah, those limited run cases, those are just to keep the engineers at InWin.
Exactly. Yes. Give them
See here, you can have some fun.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And the challenge of us modders, like you were saying earlier about the deep cool with the window on the back, you know, we've had the opportunity to work with a couple H towers, and we've worked with D frames before. And those are, you know, all those chassis, the back is usually exposed. Even S frames, you know, don't have anything really coming back there. So it makes you, yeah, really mind yourself.
I just saw the H tower was listed, I think, at Newegg for $2,900. You can get an H tower.
Yeah, it's a crazy chassis. I just finished tearing one apart and completely getting kind of modded out. So that one will be showing up in a while on our channel and stuff. But it's an amazing machine. It's kind of crazy thing to mod though, because of how, you know, engineered it is.
Well, cool. Well, everybody, again, follow these guys because they're going to be doing some really awesome stuff. And I love the fact that these guys are in these competitions and they can work under pressure. They proved it already. So if anybody that's into modding, watch what they're doing and what they're going to get into this year. And follow them on Facebook, BSMods, and on YouTube. And check them out on Twitter. And that about wraps up today's Hangout. So anything else you guys want to share?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. I mean, it was how awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have you on again. And you and Bob, too. You know what would be cool is if we can, sometime after Computex, when you guys get all back home and settled in again, is have you and Bob and then Lee Harrington and Ron Lee Christensen to kind of go over what happened there, your whole experience in this competition for InWin.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome.
Excellent. Well, I gotta say, as a modding fan like I am, having watched From the Wings for God, well over a decade now. This week has been a fantastic hangout for me to witness. So thank you for joining us, Rod. It's been fantastic. And so, our weekly reminder, if you've got nothing going on, go find something, a case, a car, I don't know, a skateboard, man. Mod up a deck sometime. Show us. Come
Somebody
over to the
else's
mod. Hand a set of keys to your kid and tell him to go painting on somebody else's car. There we go. But whatever you get up to, we want you to come over. We want to see it. Go to themodzu.com, open up a thread. We just want to see what kind of creative crap you're getting up to. Cut something up, not yourself, by the way. Paint it. We want to see your different shapes. We want to see, how about instead of modding a coffee machine into a computer like we were talking about last week, I want to see you put a computer into a Black & Decker coffee machine, okay? Let's see this crazy stuff. Let's get things going. You can find us, again, at themodzu.com. That's where our forums are. You can find links there that'll take you to our Facebook page, which is The Mod Zoo, our Twitter feed, which is at The Mod Zoo, Facebook plus The Mod Zoo. And just share all of this craziness with everyone else. We want to see it all. Bill, next week, the plan is to take a week off so everyone can enjoy Mother's Day?
Yes, we all, I think, Rod, are you married?
I am, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, wait, we're all in the same boat here then. Yes, we're taking next Sunday off so we can be with our better halves and make sure that they get their attention.
You have this week to make that gift now for your mom.
Yep. That's right. Moms too, and mothers-in-law.
Computer. Yes.
So yeah, we'll be back 2 weeks from now with another topic and more mod fun.
Have yourselves a great one, guys, and we'll see you later. And once again, enjoy the weekend. Say hi to your mom for us. Later.